Hey, welcome everyone. My name is Ryan Owens. I'm a buyer agent here with the RJF team at Keller Williams. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to talk through one of the hot button topics that we're getting a lot of questions about lately regarding the tax assessed valuations you're receiving from the county. We're going to talk through your rights as a citizen and a resident to be able to appeal these tax assessed values and what goes into this process. There's a lot of information on this topic, and we're going to do our best to cover as much as we can in a short period of time. We will have additional resources available outside of this video, so please be sure to check those additional resources for more in-depth information. We've collected information from personal experiences, from our staff, from the county, from the state of Texas, to compile as thorough information as we can. But I do want to note that we're not tax professionals. We're not legal professionals. We are real estate experts, but please don't construe this as tax advice or legal advice, but just as a concerned resident in the county of Williamson to another concerned resident, this is what we believe the best process and the way to go about appealing these values. So we're going to go through just some quick information today. What is a tax assessment? How do they come up with it? When can I file? How do I file? Why should I file? We're going to talk through all of those questions. So as we dive in, this is a process that begins at the very beginning of the year. The first 3 months of the year is when the county is going to begin compiling information to put together what they believe to be your assessed value. Now the county uses a lot of different resources to come up with this information, but it's important to note that the county does not do a full analysis on each home. They couldn't do it. There's too many homes for them to do that. And so they'll compile information and they're going to apply broad-based increases or decreases to certain areas or neighborhoods or areas within neighborhoods. And that's how they come up with your tax assessed value, just through the sample data that they collect. So again, they spend the first 3 months doing that. Beginning April is when you'll receive your notice of appraised value. This is a form you receive every year, and this form has a lot of valuable information on it that you'll need as we go through this process. I know this might be a little difficult to read, but this is where you can access your notice of appraised value you've received. A couple things to note on here. This is where you'll have your current valuation for the year 2017. You can also compare it to your last year's valuation to see what type of increase or decrease the county has placed on your property. This form is going to include how to protest, the dates you can protest. It's going to give you the information you'll need to protest online. It'll give you the mail-in form that you need. So this is a very important form. If you need help finding this, or if you've thrown this form away, give us a call. This is something that we can get for you if you've misplaced this form. One thing I want to point out on this form though, make sure you understand that you are protesting your assessed value. You're not protesting the tax rates, we're not protesting the different taxing entities, but strictly the assessed value that the county has assigned to your property. So as far as dates go, they change year to year. So it's going to be important for you to check in with us or get on your county website, either wcad.org or traviscad.org, to check the dates that you have for your different filing options or for your different protest options. This will also be under notice of appraised value. So instead of going through the specifics, I'm going to tell you to reference those, and that will give you a more accurate data as far as when you can do your different protests or the different protests that are available to you. Another question we get asked often is, why should I go through this process of appealing my assessments? And the obvious answer is, if we can lower your assessed value, if you can lower your assessed value, it's going to save you money on your taxes that you owe. What's interesting, in the state of Texas last year, 70% of tax appeals were successful. That's an overwhelming majority of these appeals that were successful. But beyond that, only 7% of residents in Texas took the time to appeal these assessments. Now, I will note in Travis County and in Williamson County, these numbers are much higher, but it's probably due to the increase we've seen in recent years. But that being said, this is a process that most people don't take the time to do that could end up saving you hundreds or thousands each year. So there's 3 different ways that you can go about appealing your taxes, and we're going to talk through each, but just to give you a quick rundown, you can walk into your county and appeal your taxes. That's only available for Williamson County residents. You can write in and request a date for an informal hearing, or you can protest online. The online protest is available in both Williamson County and Travis County, and we're going to talk through all of those options as we go forward. But what I want to point out on your notice of appraised value on page 3 is where you're going to find your different reasons that you can appeal. In fact, the county has outlined 12 different reasons you can appeal your taxes. Instead of going through all 12, I want to hit on the 3 most common and kind of break those down for you. The first and most common appeal is that the market value is, or that the assessed value is over market value. That's the reason most people appeal. We can also appeal on a basis of an unequal appraisal, meaning that a similar property is assessed for less than yours. Or you can appeal on the basis that the county has certain information about your home incorrectly written in there or incorrectly recorded. Those are the 3 most common, and if we break those down, like I said, the most common appeal is that your assessed value is over the actual market value. Now remember, market value is what a property will sell for. Again, the county wants to believe that these terms are synonymous, but they don't always have the most accurate data and information to prove that your assessed value is equal to your market value. So as realtors, what we can do is we have access to a lot of data and a lot of information through what's called the MLS. That stands for Multiple Listing Service, and it's a database of all the on-market transactions that have happened over a period of time. And we can use this information to create a much more thorough and much more accurate picture of what the market value of your home is based on homes that have sold around you that are similar. And we put all of this information into a report that's called a CMA. More initials, I know, but CMA stands for Comparative Market Analysis, and it's a fancy way of saying we're pulling comps in your neighborhood, we're putting them in a report that's easy to read and take as evidence to the county. So that's what a CMA is used for. And so this is what we're going to do. If you give us a call, we'd be glad to run the CMA for you to help you properly identify where the market value of your home should be. And this is the point where we can look at a proposed market value versus the assessed value. And if there's a difference between those 2 numbers, if the assessed value is higher than this market value, then there's good reason to go protest these values with the county. And so this is the CMA, and we're not going to dive into too much detail, but it's a very comprehensive report. We can look at the year homes were built, the square footage of homes. We can look at how long they sat on the market, when they sold, what price they sold for, did they have a pool, and then we can go into greater detail and look at the insides of homes, what type of upgrades did they have. All of this can paint a picture of a more compelling evidence that you can present to the appraiser at the county, all in this one report. So that's what we can provide. The second most common reason people appeal is on the basis of an unequal appraisal. And this means that there's a similar home in your neighborhood or in your area, maybe same square footage, same floor plan, and it's being assessed at a lower value, you can appeal on the basis of an unequal appraisal. Now, this is fairly common, but it's a little more difficult to compile this information. This would require you maybe driving around your neighborhood and finding homes that likely have a similar floor plan to you, and then comparing that with the information that the county has on their website. We recommend if you drive around, write down those addresses, go back home, get on your computer. If you're in Williamson County, go to wcad.org, Travis County, traviscad.org. And on both places they have a property search tool where you can plug in these addresses that you've written down to see if they are similar properties, similar square footage, similar floor plans, and then you can compare values. This is where if you find a home that's assessed for less than yours, you can use this as evidence to appeal on the basis of an unequal appraisal. I want to quickly show you what this looks like. This is from wcad.org under their property search tool. Lots of information on this page here. This is where you can see the assessed value. You can see the square footage of the home. You can see the year that it was built. And again, all of this can be used to create evidence for an unequal appraisal. What I would also recommend is you pull up your own address to make sure that the information the county has is correct. Because this happens to be the third most common reason people appeal, is because data that was collected by the county is inconsistent or incorrect with the actual information on your home. So this is a great way to verify that the county has everything correct. And one other thing I'll note, on this page you will see the exemptions that you have in place, that the county has in place for your property. This will also show up on the notice of appraised value, but this is very important. If you're missing certain key exemptions that should be there, this could be costing you hundreds, possibly even thousands of dollars a year if you don't have this in place. So what I like to tell people, if this is your primary residence and you are the owner as of January 1st, you should have a homestead exemption on your property. If you're over 65, you can file for an over 65 exemption, or a disabled exemption, or a disabled veteran exemption. And so if you don't have the proper exemptions in place, make this a priority to go get these exemptions in place. For a homestead, you have until April 30th to get that information to the county. For an over 65 exemption, you can file that any time in the year that you turn 65. So again, these are very important. You can verify on the county if those exemptions are in place. And if they're not, we have the resources available and the forms available for you to fill out, or you can also find these on your county website as well. So now we're going to dive into the meat of how to go about appealing. And like I said, there's two terms you'll hear me say, an informal protest and a formal protest. Within the informal protest, you can either do that online or you can meet somebody one-on-one in person. If you're going to appeal online, again, you'll go to wcad.org or traviscad.org. On both places on their homepage, they have a spot for you to appeal your taxes online. You're going to create a username and a password, and this is where you're going to plug in your quick reference ID and your online protest ID. These two numbers are at the top of your notice of appraised value. So again, you'll see that this form that you received from the county has all kinds of information that you'll need for this process. But once you plug in that information, you plug in the value that you believe your home should be assessed at, any evidence tied to that value. Then the county will review the information and they will come back with a proposed value. Now sometimes they will accept the value that you've put in. Sometimes they won't make any concessions, and sometimes it'll be right in between there. But upon receiving the county's review, they're going to send back a value. You can accept that value or decline that value. If you choose to accept, then you're done with the process. And we'll wait till next year and go through the same thing. If you decline, they're going to schedule a formal hearing for you to attend. So it's important to remember that if you protest online, this serves as your informal hearing. The other type of informal hearing is an in-person meeting with the county appraiser. You can send in written requests for a date. That's at the back of your notice of appraised value. And they'll schedule a date for you to go meet with an appraiser. You're going to walk in, you're going to be in a cubicle with an appraiser. Typically lasts about 15 minutes. This is where you'll present your information and the evidence that you've collected. And the appraiser will go through the information that they've collected to come up with their value. And then a decision will be made. That's why they call it an informal hearing, because it's a very laid-back process. And it's at this point that if the appraiser makes a concession that you're willing to accept, you accept that value and you're done with the process. If you choose not to accept that value, you still have the option of going to a formal hearing, which we're going to talk about in just a second. But one quick note, as you're meeting with the appraiser, there's a couple tips that can make this meeting a little more effective. It's important to remember that these are people doing their job, and just like all of us, kind of the golden rule goes into effect. Treat people like you want to be treated. A smile goes a long way in these meetings. They've met with people all day that are unhappy and are argumentative. And so I would recommend going in with a smile on your face as a citizen, as a resident that's just doing your due diligence, on your property, and just going with that in mind, looking to have a good attitude. That'll go a long way. But again, if it goes to the formal hearing process, I want to kind of go through that process with you. There's going to be, in this room, there's going to be 3 community volunteers that have volunteered their time to hear these different cases from residents. There's going to be the appraiser and then yourself. So it's important that if you go to this process, you want to bring 5 sets of evidence with you so that everybody in the room can have the evidence that you're looking at. You will present your case, the appraiser will present their case. It's important that after this process, you make a motion to the community volunteers to lower your value. It's at this time that they will vote, and the process will be complete with either reducing your value or keeping it the same. But this is the process. This is the tax appeal process and how it works. As you can see, it's a very involved process and lots of information. But again, I want to direct you to our additional resources. Thanks again for taking the time to join us. We hope that this information has been helpful. Have a wonderful day.